I am seeing Gen X in the nursing homes, and it is lifestyle diseases. I shouldn't be seeing 50-year-olds in the nursing homes. I shouldn't be seeing 40-year-olds in the nursing homes. And what I'm seeing is diabetes, and I'm seeing heart disease, I'm seeing strokes, and I'm seeing early set Alzheimer's, and it is breaking my heart.
Hey, and welcome back to the RevRx podcast, where we discuss how to thrive in faith, family, and health. My name is Chad Potts, and I'm your host. I want to remind all the men out there, if you're looking for a way to stop the slide that normally happens during the holiday season, on November 22nd, I'm starting a 40 Grit Challenge for men. This is a challenge that will enable you to focus on body, mind, and soul to finish 2024 stronger than ever. If that sounds like something you're interested in, check out www.therevrx.com/40grit for more info. Today's special guest on the show is Amy K. Wilson. She's a fellow pharmacist. She's a nutrition coach. And one of the things that she's noticed in her career as a long-term care pharmacist is the fact that nursing home residents are becoming younger and younger, mostly due to preventable lifestyle diseases. Things like diabetes, hypertension, stroke, that sort of thing. And so she's on a mission to help people stay out of the nursing home. She's on a mission to help people really and truly live their best life, to lose that weight that they've always wanted to get off, and to do it in a way that is healthy, in a way that's safe. Today, we're going to nerd out as two pharmacists talk about GLP1's. You may be wondering, what in the world are those? Those are the drugs, the injectables, the shots known as Ozempic, Wegovy, all of those. We're going to talk about how they work. We're going to talk about if they're safe to use, are they effective in weight loss and diabetes? What is their role? We're going to talk about eating healthy and eating whole foods as a primary source of losing weight. And we're also going to talk about her story. You're going to be inspired. You're going to be encouraged. You're going to learn a lot from this episode. So without further ado, I introduce you to my friend and fellow pharmacist, Amy Wilson. Thank you so much, Amy, for joining us today on the RevRx podcast. What a privilege it is to have another pharmacist here on the show with me.
This is going to be an amazing conversation. I think we're both like-minded in some of the ways we do with pharmacy. So excited to be here, Chad. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I'd love for our listeners to get to know your story a little bit, because what's really fascinating is, you and I do align in a lot of ways, both working in the mainstream health industry. Started off as a pharmacist, filling prescriptions. We're counseling patients. We're doing all the things that we're taught to do. And then at some point in my career, and I think probably that's part of your story too, you kind of realize we're not hitting the root of the problem with that traditional model. So I'd love to hear how you went from traditional pharmacist to now nutrition coach, and kind of what motivated you to take that journey.
It's kind of like, I'll give you the Cliff Note version. So went to University of Toledo, majored in pharmacy. While I was there, I swear to God, I was not going to gain the freshman 15. And started going to this aerobics class. I ended up being the aerobic instructor. So I got into fitness. I had danced and played sports all through high school. So it was just kind of like a natural progression.
Nice.
While going through pharmacy school, because it was so much better to have that job than the job at the library. Because I'll be honest, the job at the library sucked. It was boring. And I'm like, they're going to pay me more to teach aerobics. I get to be paid to work out. Awesome. So went through pharmacy school and continued to teach after pharmacy school. The problem is that I became what's called an exercise addict. I was addicted to those endorphins, and I blew my back out at 29. I had back surgery. Didn't learn my lesson. I was trying to out-train a bad diet. Didn't put two and two together. It was always about, at that time, we were fat-free everything. Everything was, low, the low fat, the fat-free, lots of sugar, which fast forward, that's why we have a diabetic epidemic now.
Yep.
So what happened was, nothing hit me over the head yet. I was still teaching. I was still being a pharmacist. And I was like, when you're at that time I was in retail, more and more questions about supplements, more and more questions about diets and nutrition, because they would go to their doctor and they'd be put on a blood pressure medication or this, and they would say, but I don't want to be on this blood pressure medication, but my doctor didn't tell me anything else. And I'm like, okay, well, there's a huge disconnect, or they would
Yeah.
go to a registered dietitian. And unfortunately, in some places, it was a hospital registered dietitian who
Mm.
wasn't working with the lay public. And
Yeah.
so it just did not click with them. And
Mm.
then in class, as an aerobic instructor, I would get, how do I lose weight? What
Mm.
do I need to eat? I'm on this medication. How does it affecting me with working out? So all of a sudden things started gelling and I started looking at different certifications for nutrition. I have about 5 of them. I'm going to be honest, because things have changed throughout the industry. And we
Yeah.
used to be all about calories in versus calories out. And then it was like, hey, the low carb phase and this phase and
Mm.
this phase. And finally, I had to start saying, whoa, put on the brakes, because perimenopause and menopause kicked my butt. It did. I am a pharmacist. I am working out all the time and I am gaining inches and
Mm.
feeling crap and fluffy. And so I had to become the student. I had
Mm.
to become the client. And I was watching some other friends who were doing this program called the Fast Way to Fat Loss. And I thought, well, I'm going to throw a Hail Mary pass and I'm going to try it. And it was science. It wasn't the, oh, let's just try this approach and don't eat anymore. It was
Right.
actually science based. And as pharmacists, we can geek out like that forever.
Yeah.
Give me
Yeah.
chemical reactions, tell me how my body is actually working.
Yep.
It made sense. And not only did it make sense, it worked.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, I can't keep this a secret. I need to coach other people like me. But at the same time, I'm now in the geriatric world. I'm now in the long-term care nursing home world.
Mm-hmm.
And what I am seeing in the past, right before COVID and even, and now after COVID, was my patients, my residents are getting younger and younger.
Mm.
I am seeing Gen X in the nursing homes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is lifestyle diseases. Yes. Do we
Yeah.
see accidents and things like that? Yes, that happens. But I shouldn't be seeing 50-year-olds in the
Mm.
nursing homes. I shouldn't be
Yeah.
seeing 40-year-olds in the nursing homes. And what I'm seeing is diabetes, and I'm seeing heart disease, I'm seeing strokes, and I'm seeing early set Alzheimer's, and it is breaking my heart. And it wasn't until then that I'm like, wait a minute, I would say a triple threat almost, is that I am a nutrition coach because I went and got certified in the Fast Way to Fat Loss because I believe in it so much because it's everything. I am a fitness instructor who has been in the industry since I was 17. Don't do the
Yeah.
math. And then I'm also a pharmacist who has been through retail and is now a board certified geriatric pharmacist who works in the long-term care industry. And putting all of that together, my mission is, one, to help perimenopause, menopause women feel their best. But my mission is to keep you out of a nursing home, whether you're male or
Yeah.
female, because you and I both know being in a nursing home is not life. It is not home. It is
Right.
not living to your potential. And we're not done 50 plus. We're
Mm.
just starting. It's like we've learned so much, and some things we can just let go and let it slide off. We don't have to worry about keeping up with the Joneses, and because we know what to do, but we don't know what to do. And so that's where I feel it's my privilege and it's my responsibility to help people understand how to eat, how to work out, that it doesn't consume their life, but it actually makes them better and they age better. That there is,
Yeah.
you can't reverse age, right? We're gonna grow older, but
Yeah.
we don't have to get older per se of older diseases. We don't have to be frail. And so
Yeah.
I guess that was a long, short story.
No, I love that, and what a unique perspective you have. And I have a similar one as well. I work with a geriatric population, and yeah, it's nursing home, and sometimes we have methods of being able to keep people home, but it's not thriving.
No.
And you're right. Like I'm seeing in my population, I'm getting some 40 and 50-year-olds in my population as well, and it's staggering because like I turned 40 this past year, and I'm like, that guy's not much older than me. What if it was me, not him?
Yeah, and I'm sure you look at the chart and the first thing you see is the date of birth, and you're like, wait a
Right.
minute, that
Right.
should not be that date of birth. That should not even be close to me at all. And it's crazy. Yeah.
And it's really alarming. It is a trend that we're starting to see, and it's really, really alarming. And you're right. There are accidents. There are freak things that happen, but largely it's lifestyle diseases.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I want to hit on that just a minute because one of the things that I've been really learning and trying to get the word out about is, those diseases are not just something that happens all of a sudden, right? There seems to be this false dichotomy in healthcare to where, okay, I'm checking my A1C and it's creeping up, but I still don't have diabetes yet. Now we've got this category prediabetes, but people don't really, get too alarmed about that. You're not like not diabetic one moment and diabetic the next. You don't have heart disease the minute you have a heart attack. It's been decades in the making, right?
Yeah. And that kind of drives me nuts because I'll get somebody's like, yeah, my A1C is creeping up, but my doctor wants to watch it.
Yeah.
What are we watching? Why
Right.
are we watching? Because that is
Yeah.
your body telling you it's going up. That's your body telling
Mm,
you that you're on the road to diabetes. The same thing when
right.
someone goes to the doctor and they're like, well, I don't really have high blood pressure yet,
Mm.
but they just want to watch it.
It's kind of
That
borderline.
is your warning to do something. That is your window of
Yeah.
opportunity that you need to do something now. And it's like, well, they don't want to put me on medication yet.
Yeah.
Why should that be the goal? That
Right.
should not be the goal. The goal should be, okay, and you and I both discussed this before. Medication has a purpose. I am a
Mhm.
pharmacist who does not want you on medication if all possible, but
Yep.
medication does have a purpose. Most of our medication is a treatment, it's not a cure.
Yeah.
So let me repeat that. It's a treatment, it's not a cure. So if you're taking something for blood pressure to bring your blood pressure down, that's not curing the disease state itself. If you're taking something to bring your A1C down for prediabetes or diabetes, that's not helping the disease state. So
Right.
what we want is to reverse or prevent or what's called the lowest effective dose that,
Yep.
okay, maybe something runs in your family, diabetes runs in my family, so I do my best to keep my A1C down.
Mhm.
And maybe you're on a very low blood pressure medication, but that's where we stop because then you're going to get the triad if you keep going. High blood pressure goes to high cholesterol, goes to diabetes, goes to stroke, goes to heart attack.
Mm.
We don't want that. And you're given this warning signal from your body, whether it's your labs or whether it's going to the doctor and he does some diagnostic tests and say, hey, your blood pressure is a little bit elevated today, or this is going on, or you're saying, hey, I'm not sleeping. I don't feel good. My joints hurt. I have brain fog. All of those are things that your body is throwing out to you to say,
Yeah.
wake up, listen to me, and let's do something.
Yeah.
And
They're clues.
we just need to listen to our body.
Sure. Sure. And our bodies really do kind of tell us what's going on. A lot of people that I talk to are like, I just don't feel good. I'm tired all the time. I just can't put my finger on it. Hey, let's let's make an appointment with your doctor and let's get some labs and let's look and see what's going on. And there is this concept of things happen on a continuum, but earlier action is best, right? It's kind of like the whole when do you want or when should you have planted a fruit tree? Well, the
Yeah.
best time to plant a fruit tree is 10 years ago. If you missed that window, then today's the best time to do that. It's the same thing about prioritizing your health, right? If you haven't been doing that up to this point, then the best time to start is now. And I see a lot of people that are just like, well, I'm just getting older. And we use that as a reason for, this is the way things are. But there's a difference between the aging process and disease, right?
Yeah, we try to rationalize. We try to say, okay, this is the reason why we're XYZ. And like you said before, it's like you don't just get a disease. You don't go to the doctor and you just got blood pressure. You just got diabetes. It's been
Yeah.
something that has been brewing for a long period of time because you haven't been giving your body what it really needs.
Hmm.
And if you've been dieting, that really doesn't give your body what it needs. And
Right.
what we need to do is really think about what are we rationalizing? Are you rationalizing that, oh, it's the kids. The kids are just running me ragged, or it's the stress at work, or it's this. And so that causes you to go through the drive through, and that causes you not to get a workout, and that's causing you not to get sleep. All of those things are adding up. And I know it's hard because people are like, "Oh, I just don't have time. I just don't have time. And we'll make the excuses, but
Yeah.
you don't have the time to be sick either.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you are given the opportunity because your body is telling you what's going on, and you're like, okay, yes, go to the doctor, get the labs, But a lot of times the doctor's not going to give you something that says, hey, you really need to work on your nutrition, because they're looking at all
Yeah.
your symptoms right now. And they're thinking, okay, what kind of disease am I looking at?
Yep.
They're not going to say, hey, how's your eating? How's your sleep? How's your mental health?
Yep.
We know the insurance industry dictates how many the patients they see per hour.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. And then what I'm not thrilled about is, we all want a prescription when we go to the doctor's office. We want a piece of paper that shows that we were there and that it was worth our time.
It's our reward.
It's reward. It is. And, now, unfortunately, doctors have something that if you are overweight, that it could be automatically GLP-1, which is like Ozempic or Wegovy or Mounjaro.
Right.
That's not always the answer either. Can it help? Absolutely. But that's not the answer. So, we need to stop looking at a pill for everything like we do in the United States. That, hey, maybe it's what we eat. Maybe it's how we're managing stress. Maybe it's how we're working out or we're not working out, or how we're moving our body. And we need to start looking at those little things. Believe me, those are little things that add up big time. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want a $300 copay or pay something out of pocket. And also it's going to age you faster. And that's not good.
Well, and you said it best. It's one of those situations where a lot of times we say we have a pill for that, or nowadays we've got a shot for that.
Yeah.
While that may often be quote unquote the simplest way to go, that doesn't require lifestyle change, right? I can just take a pill for that. We have to understand that that's the Band-Aid approach. That's just going to cover up. That's treating, not healing, like what you said. And is there a place for some of that? Sure. We're both pharmacists. We understand that. But I think you and I are aligned really closely when I say this. I think you'll agree with it. If I could work myself out of a job as a pharmacist, I would be thrilled to death. If there was not a need for all of these medications, and really if people took control of the lifestyle components that we're going to talk about today, it would greatly reduce the number of prescriptions and the amount of money that we're spending on healthcare in the U.S., right?
Yeah, it would absolutely. If someone says either I pay for it now or I pay for it later. And, I get that a lot. It's like, well, it's too expensive to get healthy. Well, it's too expensive to be sick.
Yep.
And, what people don't realize is that, okay, there's a medication, but you forget that our body is just one big chemical reaction.
Yeah.
That's what it is. We have all these enzymatic processes, we have all these chemical reactions. And, if you think about, whether it was chemistry lab in high school or college, or if you're mixing stuff and you're like, and something goes boom. Well, that's what we want. We want those reactions to occur. The problem is when you give it subpar ingredients, and the best thing I can always say is, the car analogy. If you have a Ferrari, Lamborghini, or something that takes the best gas, you're not going to go pull up and give it the regular. It just doesn't work on all cylinders. Our bodies are the same way. If we keep giving it crap ingredients, those enzymatic reactions, they don't occur. We start increasing our inflammation, and we really know now that all these disease states all have in common is inflammation. It's the starting point.
100%.
And if we can start trying to reduce that inflammation, that you can hopefully decrease your potential of having diabetes, prediabetes, or reverse it. Same thing with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, decreasing stroke, decreasing metabolic disorders. There's so many things that we can do. And sometimes people are like, but it's not that easy. I get it. It's not. It's relearning. It's taking away bad habits. And it's also getting rid of all those myths that we've been taught forever that really don't make sense. But we believe it because we've been told it forever. So we have to let that stuff go.
Yeah, absolutely. So shifting gears a little bit. All right. We understand that, pills, shots, they're not always the answer. What are some of the answers? Let's talk about healthy eating to start with. What are kind of some of the main pillars that you teach as part of your coaching and, when it comes to nutrition?
So it goes down to what's called whole food nutrition. It means if it's real, if it comes from the ground, it comes from a mother, it is fair game. Yep. What's not fair game if it's made in a plant, like a physical plant, not plant that's in your garden, a plant. That's the ultra processed foods. So we now have two categories. We have processed foods, which can be healthy for you. And now we have another category called ultra processed foods, UPFs. Right. those are your things that have added chemicals and added sugars and dyes. And they really aren't food. And this may sound really disgusting to some of you, but they pretty much are already digested for you. There
Yeah.
is nothing in there. So there's a big difference between eating something that's ultra processed food that's going to get absorbed. Every single component is going to get absorbed because it's already been digested for you.
Mhm.
And then eating something that is whole food, like, let's say like a big salad, and it's grilling season, so a real hamburger.
Mhm.
And that's going to take time to get to digest it. And guess what? Not
Yeah.
everything is going to get absorbed during the time that it's going through your stomach, through your intestines, and everything else. But those also have vitamins and minerals, not added vitamins and minerals. They actually have vitamins and minerals. They have fiber. They're everything that you need in a real form. And
Mhm.
so if you can start decreasing the amount of prepackaged food, if you're grabbing a Pop-Tart in the morning, or you're grabbing some kind of frozen dinner, most of those are not very good for you either, especially if they're the diet ones. But if you're
Mhm.
grabbing just a bagel or a Pop-Tart in the morning, well, let's change it. Let's change it to some boiled eggs. Let's change it to oatmeal. Let's change it to a good smoothie. And that's a start. And the best thing to
Mhm.
do is go baby steps, because the one thing that you don't want to do is go, okay, without help. Just gonna say without help. You don't want to be like, oh my gosh, I'm throwing everything away and I'm doing this. And without help, you're going to kind of be like, oh my gosh, where am I? What am I doing? I don't understand.
Mhm.
Oh, this is so overwhelming. And then it's very easy to go back to your old habits.
Yeah.
So
It's
if you
too
can start
much.
with these too much, so if you start with one thing, okay, let's work on a different breakfast every day. All
Mhm.
right, now that we got breakfast, okay, what can we do for lunch? How can we make that improve? Now we got that, what can we do for dinners and make that improve?
Yeah.
And when you start doing that in baby steps, then you are going to be more successful than if you're like, okay, I'm just pitching everything and we're going in. And we know January 1st, that happens
Mhm.
every January 1st, right? And so
Right.
people will try to do it on their own January 1st. And by January 14th, they're back at their old habits because they didn't help. And that's where a nutrition coach will come in, because you actually have a plan, and that helps so much. But yeah, if you can go with the whole foods and start decreasing those ultra processed foods, oh my gosh, that is a huge step.
Yeah. I want to point out two things there. Number one being, I love what you said about it's not food. The ultra processed food is not food. I call it food products
Mhm.
because I'm sure I heard that somewhere. I didn't coin the term, but is it edible? Sure. Is it food? No. Shop the outer edge of the grocery store, right?
Yeah.
Not the inside where all the packaged stuff is.
Well, and people have to realize is that a lot of those ultra processed foods, they taste good for a reason. They have
Yeah.
amazing mouthfeel for a reason. They're made in a lab. There are chemists in there to make you want more, to
Hmm.
make that you crave this food. And that's a hard part with a lot of my clients at first, is that, oh, but I always had this snack and it just makes me happy. Yeah, it's supposed to. I mean,
Yeah.
they have worked on it to hit the dopamine, to hit all the serotonin. They have hit
Yep.
everything to make you have that happy, warm, fuzzy feeling. But the problem is, how do you feel afterwards and what's
Hmm.
going on? And then once they realize that, oh my gosh, I have more energy. I don't need that 2 o'clock nap anymore.
Yeah.
My migraines are gone. The joint pain is gone. I'm like, okay, so is it worth having that little high that you got from that food? Or is it better to feel amazing 24/7? And
Yep.
you realize that, of course, I want to feel much better 24/7.
Yeah, and we get in those ruts, don't we? It usually
Yeah.
starts with I'm going to have a snack mid afternoon, or I'm going to have, start my day off with breakfast with a Pop Tart. I did that when I was in high school.
Mhm.
I ate 3 Pop Tarts a day, and I didn't just eat Pop Tarts. I put butter on top and put them in a toaster oven. Just a buttery, ooey goodness with the sugar. Man, it was so good. Um, I don't know how in the world I'm still here after years of that. But anyway, I was young, I guess. But yeah, realizing that it kind of starts there, but it's a slippery slope, because thinking about it this way, we're up against the brightest chemists and scientists in the world that these food companies have hired to make their foods, number one, taste good, and number two, become borderline addictive. And so when you realize, yeah, I mean, it tastes good and I want more, that's all by design. Um, and that we're not playing conspiracy theorists here. I mean, that's proven out. That's the truth. And how much better you feel when you get back to those whole foods.
Mhm.
one of the ways I like to tell my men that I coach, my clients, I like to tell them, if God made it, eat
Hmm.
it. If that's what we were put on, if that's available for us to eat on this earth, eat it. If it was man made, at least minimize that. I'm not going to tell you not to have anything, but yeah, at least minimize it, right? And then realizing too that we don't have to make all of those changes at one time. I think that's really, really valuable. One of the things you pointed out was start small, start with breakfast, then work on lunch, then work on supper. You're not going to succeed if it's this all or nothing concept without help, without the assistance of a coach or a nutritionist, without someone like Amy coming alongside and saying, "Hey, let me help you along this journey as your guide." It's too much. It's overwhelming, and yeah, it's like, where did all my food go? I don't like this stuff. But one of the things we know is that our taste buds change, right? And so the more that we begin to eat these whole foods, and the more we start weaning ourselves off of some of these processed, ultra processed foods, the better we start to feel and the less we need those things. So I think that's really, really important because, when we when we have the all or nothing approach and we go out and we throw everything in our freezer and our pantry away and we put nothing but healthy foods in there, that's not the way to that's not the way to succeed. That's not the way to step forward. That's not the way to really find something that's sustainable for you immediately. You're in the bad habits and you've been practicing them for years.
Well, and I also say you become the perpetual 2-year-old who's going to have a meltdown
Yep.
because, tell a 2-year-old, no, you can't have this. Then they want it even more. And that's the
Yep.
problem with dieting, because dieting will take things away and will make you where you feel like you're not eating.
Yep.
You're probably not eating enough real food. And when you
Yep.
start eating real food, the volume that you have to actually eat is pretty amazing. That's usually the biggest complaint I get from my clients the first 2 weeks is like, wait, you want me to eat how much?
Yeah.
Wait, no. I have been not, most of them have been eating less than 1,000 calories. I'm like, yes, yes, yes,
Hmm.
because this is real food. This is vitamins and minerals. And when they start losing inches in week 3 and 4, they're like, wait a minute, how did that happen when I'm eating so much more? I'm like,
Yeah.
because you're getting what your body needs.
Right.
Now your body can preserve its muscle. Now your body can build the muscle because we're using our muscle building program with food that works.
Right.
Now you can sleep so you can rebuild, regenerate. I call it all the R's that you do it in the middle of the night. And it's like,
Yeah.
now you can do all the things that you need to do, that your body needs
Mm.
to do, because you're giving it its fuel.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's like, does that mean you're not gonna be able to have a chocolate chip cookie? Oh, no. I still have chocolate chip cookie. I
Hmm.
still have pizza. I still have burgers.
Hmm.
But guess what? It's pizza I make. It's a chocolate chip cookie that is either, all real ingredients. It's not like
Hmm.
Chips Ahoy. And it's a burger I make on my grill with meat that I get from a butcher. So I'm
Yeah.
still having great food. I'm just not going someplace where they put all the additives in.
I love that. And you're right. The quantity you can have if you're eating right is way more than what you're probably used to if you're a chronic dieter.
Hmm.
Um, so thinking about diets too, I wanted to hit this with you. What's your view on, there's so much misinformation out there. And there's been all these fads through the years. So you're right. At some point it was like, okay, well, all the fat's making us fat. So let's make everything fat free or low
Yeah.
fat. And then they're like, okay, probably not. So now, you see this shift towards low carb, no carb, keto, that kind of thing. A lot of elimination diets. There's time restricted diets. Lots of diets out there, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think I know what you're going to say to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What is the best diet out there? If people ask me that all the time, so
The best diet is the diet that you can actually stick to. And it's
yeah,
not a diet. It means, I call it a lifestyle. It's nutrition
yep,
lifestyle. So what I coach, yes, I do coach intermittent fasting. It's a tool.
hmm,
Intermittent fasting is not a diet. And if
right,
anybody tells you differently, I'm going to argue with you, because if you're doing the 1 meal a day, OMAD, it doesn't work,
hmm,
because you can't get all the nutrition that you need in 1 meal a day.
right,
If you are using it saying, okay, well, I'm going to do the 16-8 protocol, which means 16 hours I don't eat and 8 hours I do, and I can eat
hmm,
whatever I want during those 8 hours, it's not going to work.
yeah,
Because once again, our body is a chemical process. If all you're
yep,
doing is giving it junk, because I'll have people like, oh, but I lost weight. but you're not giving your body what it needs, and your skin looks
Yeah.
sunken, and you're gray, your hair's falling out. Okay, well, you're putting added stress on your body with the intermittent fasting, and then you're not giving it what it needs.
Yep.
Okay, so intermittent fasting is a great tool. It's not a diet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then with low carb, okay, maybe I do something called carb cycling. So a couple days I go lower carb. Doesn't mean I don't eat
Yeah.
carbs. It means I go lower carb.
Yeah.
And then the days I'm lifting, I'm bringing the carbohydrates back in.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
Most,
Probably on your non-workout days.
yeah, most of us need carbohydrates. Our thyroid needs carbohydrates.
Yeah.
Our brain needs carbohydrates. Okay. Our bodies are smart, because the what I'm going to hear is, but we can survive on ketones. Yeah, we can. Our bodies are smart. It adapts. It
Right.
adapts to junk food too.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's the right thing. Doesn't mean it's good for you. Most people who I know who do something like, back in the days, Atkins, or it does something that requires them to go so low carb, they cannot stick to it.
Yeah.
And when they get off of it because it was a birthday party or they had a piece of cake, then they go almost like it's like a rush, and
Yeah.
they can't stop.
Yeah.
And then they try to go back to low carb, and they can't.
Mhm.
So what works is something that you can give and take. Life happens.
Yeah.
And so it's always something that you want to be able to do most of the time. And yeah, you're going to go on vacation. Okay. Yeah, you're not going to have the best food. You might have some alcohol, that kind of thing, but that you're able to go right back on it because it makes the most sense and you feel the best. It's not something that's so restrictive and crazy that you're just like, oh no, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. It's something you were looking forward to. I know when I go on vacation, I'm like, okay, get me back, because I need to get back on my plan, because I feel so much better when I'm eating the real food and giving my body what it needs to work.
Right. And I think that's a key indicator. One of the things you mentioned was that people say, well, I lost weight. Realizing that that's not the ultimate goal, right? I mean, yeah, is less weight, if you're overweight, less weight is healthier, yes. But you can do that in suboptimal ways that's not good for your body. And so, that's kind of a metric I consider to be a vanity metric, just because a lot of times that's the only thing we're focused on. I just want to lose weight at any cost.
Yeah.
But that's really not a sustainable way to go about it either. I love what you keep bringing up, the idea of kind of you are what you eat.
Mm-hmm.
If you eat crap, you're going to feel like crap.
Yeah.
Your body, you're right. It needs the substrates. It needs the parts from what we eat to function. And so if we're not feeding it right, it's not going to work right, and we're not going to feel right.
Well, there's something called skinny fat. And, we see the geriatric population, we see people our age, and a lot of it has to do with losing muscle mass.
Yep.
And things called frailty. And what I'm afraid of now, because people aren't eating with certain medications, that we're going to start seeing diseases of frailty in 40-year-olds.
Yep.
In 50-year-olds. We're going to start seeing the osteoporosis, osteopenia. We're going to start seeing sarcopenia, which is the muscle loss, because they're not fueling their body with what it needs. So yeah, you can be skinny, but if you can't get up from the chair, if you can't pick up your kids, if you can't pick up the groceries, if you look 10 years older than you really are, I have a problem with that. I really do.
Yeah.
And I get it. People are like, okay, there's all these articles that say, Ozempic and Wegovy, and they help with inflammation, they help with diabetes, and they help prevent cancers. They do in type 2 diabetics.
Yeah.
Those studies are being done in people who are obese, whose A1Cs have been out of control.
Yep.
That's who the studies are being done on. They're not being done on somebody who is using it for weight loss.
Right. And I'll even add to that. That's a really good point to bring up, because you're not comparing apples to apples here when you're using that as a reason to take it. Because let me ask it this way: is the reduction in A1C itself not going to improve inflammation, no matter what method you use to do that?
Exactly.
So if you're using Ozempic to bring your sugar down, is it the Ozempic that's reducing the inflammation, or is it the fact that your sugar is better controlled and therefore have less inflammation? So, it's hard to assign that to that particular medication, and then to apply that outside of the context of diabetes. You're not comparing the same thing. So, I'm really glad you brought that up. And while we're on the topic, we're both pharmacists. Let's talk about Ozempic and et cetera. I'll say Ozempic, et cetera. The GLP1s. And thinking about how they work. Okay. So one of the ways that they work is that they kind of slow down the GI tract. They make you feel full. All right. But there are some natural ways that we can go about kind of combating hunger, right?
Yeah. How about
Uh,
protein at each meal?
Yeah.
How about real food? How about increasing your fiber? All of those will help with ghrelin and leptin, which are two hormones that
Yeah.
control appetite.
Yep.
So you don't really need the GLP-1. The problem is if you've been eating processed food, because I get that
Yeah.
all the time. It's like, I've tried everything. I've tried everything. I'm like, have you really tried eating? And have you tried weightlifting? If you haven't, then you haven't tried everything.
Right.
And with the GLP-1s, yes, they do decrease your appetite, but you can do that. You can do that naturally. And when you start feeding your body with what it wants, guess what? Your appetite will decrease. My clients are not always hungry. They're not, because of when you're eating real food, when you got the fiber, when you got the protein, it's amazing that you don't feel like I got to eat all the time, because guess what? Your blood sugar is also stable too. So you're not having these highs and lows. And guess what? A1C was going to go down. Your blood sugar gets stabilized. Hormones get optimized. All these things happen without injecting.
Yeah. Yeah. And so thinking about that process of, all right, protein, fiber. I keep hearing that come up over and over. In my studies and in my coaching, I do the same thing. Protein and fiber. Those are very, very big building blocks of what it looks like to eat healthy. Protein for muscle mass. And I want to talk about that in just a minute. And then fiber for the GI tract, right? Because one of the things I'm starting to see, and it's not just anecdotal. So, I've got some friends that are suffering from colon cancer currently, my age and younger.
Yeah.
There's an epidemic, though, if you want to use that word, of young adults, 30s, 40s, with colon cancer. And one of the things that's kind of constantly being linked towards that is this concept of ultra processed foods, because ultra processed foods do not largely contain fiber. And fiber is one of the major components of preventing colon cancer, keeping things operating the way that they need to be operating, and helping us feel full. And so, I can't stress enough the fact that that ultra processed food that you're eating is not going to keep you full. B is making you almost addicted to the product. And then C is leading you down a dangerous road to becoming a very unhealthy version of yourself.
Well, if you look at, I'm Gen X, you're millennial, and Gen Z. So the boomers didn't really have McDonald's and that kind of thing. That came out, that was my parents. So me growing up, it was sporadic. It wasn't all the time. Millennials and Gen Z, there's one on every corner. There's Starbucks. There's this, and I can't tell you how many times I would teach, and somebody would bring their kid into the babysitting place, and they would have a Happy Meal with them. So growing up, all those years being not, it wasn't your parents' fault because they didn't know, but being subjected to all that ultra processed food and not fiber and not getting the apples and the carrots and all the real food.
Right.
Like you said, you don't just get high blood pressure. You don't just get diabetes. And that's years of not having that fiber in your system. And that's, I always call fibers like the dishwasher of your intestines. That's what it's doing. It's scrubbing everything. And so that's why I think we're seeing so much in millennials and Gen Z, is because of growing up with ultra processed foods for so much longer than boomers and Gen X did.
Yeah, 100%. And there's no shame or judgment there. None of that is intended, but it's just, okay, you don't know what you don't know. So we're trying to bring awareness to this.
Yeah.
And then now that you become a little bit self-aware about what's going on, okay, now I can make some responsible choices.
Well, and the other thing with fiber too, is that now we're looking at gut microbiome, where back in the day we thought, bacteria is bad. You don't want bacteria. And now we're realizing, hey, bacteria is good. And we're seeing, the correlation between dementia and Alzheimer's and your gut and microbiome and dementia and depression and anxiety and you know, there's just so much. And so get your fiber. Just get your fiber.
Yeah. Yeah. Your gut's your second brain.
Yes.
Closely linked with all that. And so switching gears a little bit to exercise. So, someone who's worked out your whole life, um, tell us about your view on exercise and the importance of, having that as part of your healthy routine, because, diet is probably the best place to start because you can't outwork a bad diet. I
Correct.
think you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
Um, but exercise is important. We are not supposed to sit. We're both sitting. We're not supposed to sit all day like a lot of us do today. There's largely this sedentary lifestyle that's become accepted as normal. But talk to us a little bit about exercise and the importance of that.
So our bodies are meant to move, and sitting is the new smoking. There's a lot of research out there that shows
Yep.
the issues that's coming with being a sedentary society. And at the other point, it doesn't mean that you have to go cray all the
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
I'll be the first to say I was a cardio bunny. I worked out all the time. I did,
Yep.
I taught classes that were cardio, and then I'll go on the Stairmaster, and then I'll go on the elliptical, and yada, yada, yada. That's not what we're talking about. You need 30 minutes a day. 30 minutes of a good workout. So whether
Mhm.
that is, I do HIIT twice a week, which is cardiovascular, because you want some cardiovascular, and then you also want lifting. The
Yeah.
rest of the time is movement. It doesn't mean cray. It doesn't mean you have to go do marathons. I have a standing desk. I have a walking pad. I will,
Yep.
when I'm on a conference call, I'll have my headphones on and I'll be walking the whole entire time.
Yep.
So, a body in motion stays in motion. That's exactly what we want.
Yeah.
The thing is that what we really want to focus on too is that muscle building. That muscle building is what is going to keep you going. We said it before. That is what's going to keep you aging less rapid. That's what's going to
Right.
keep you independent. That's going to prevent falls.
Yep.
All these things that you need to do is like my husband was talking about Richard Simmons, and it just came out that his cause of death was a fall.
Mhm.
And it breaks my heart. And he's like, but he was
Yeah.
in such good shape. I'm like, he was in shape cardiovascular wise.
Right.
I said, did you ever see any of his stuff with lifting weights? It was always cardiovascular.
Mhm.
So, lifting weights also helps with balance. There's so many things that we need to do so that we can get up, down, up, down, up, down, and that we're not shuffling our feet to cause a fall. And somebody's like, what? You know what? I'm not doing that yet. I'm still young. I don't have to worry about it. So start now and train your
Yeah.
body for your future self. That's what I want to say is start now.
Yeah. Because your future self is not going to be more in shape than you are now if you don't do something about it.
Yeah.
You're not going to naturally age better. That you're not going to just flow into thriving and having this healthy life. It takes being intentional. And one of the things I want to point out, kind of as we wrap up here, is the fact that you'd mentioned, going back to the beginning, nursing home residents are getting younger and younger,
Mhm.
right? A large part of that is this frailty index, right?
Mhm.
And so we're losing, one of the things we know is that as we age, we lose a large amount of muscle mass. So, right now, looking at 10 years down the road, Chad in 10 years is going to have a lot less muscle mass than Chad now.
Mhm.
What am I going to do about that? Well, I'm going to lift weights. I'm going to try to do everything I can on the front side to make sure that as I age, because we can't stop that,
Right.
right?
Right.
We've tried. We can't stop it. We're not going to live forever, at least not in these bodies. And so, thinking about 10 years from now, what do I want to be able to do? Do I want to be able to play with my kids? Or, for you, it may be, if you're listening to this show, it may be your grandkids. Whatever the case may be, what do you want to be able to do in 10 years? Well, you need to be able to do that better now
Mhm.
than you want to be able to do that in 10 years. And so what are you doing today? I love what you just said. What are you doing today to make your best self down the road?
Mhm.
Absolutely fantastic. I love that. And so, yeah, thinking about how do we stay out of the nursing home? Amy, what would be kind of your biggest take home points for our listeners for that question?
So the biggest thing is, whole food nutrition, getting your sleep, because we wear a badge of honor. And I can go back to college and,
Yeah.
I pulled an all-nighter to get, to study all my exams, blah, blah,
You
blah.
brag about it.
You brag
Yeah.
about it, right? You brag about, oh, I only need 3 hours. I only need this. No, you need sleep. You
Yeah.
absolutely need sleep. And we're seeing more and more disease states are coincide with lack of sleep. So
Mhm.
you need the sleep, you need the whole foods, and you need to build muscle. Because really, all our studies about losing muscle is because we haven't been trying to keep our muscle.
Yeah.
And, what would happen if we all start lifting weights? What would happen if we start using it? You would see a decline in how much muscle we do lose every year. And
Yep.
so we need to be in the business of keeping and building muscle as we age. And you need to start now. I always say you have a window of opportunity. It's now. And someone says, well, is it too late to start? It's never too late to start. It's never too late to start. This might be this is your sign. This is your sign to eat real food, to work on staying active, to lift weights, and to get some sleep. And those things, if you just start doing those things, and you know what, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yep.
Because sometimes you just need a plan. Sometimes it's overwhelming. You go Dr. Google and you get umpteen other things. You're on Instagram and you're seeing this influencer and this influencer. If it's too good to be true, it is.
Yeah.
If it's something that you can't stick with, it's not going to work.
Yeah. And that's why I value what you're doing. You're a healthcare provider. You're a healthcare practitioner. You're a healthcare professional. You understand what it means to be backed by science, to be rooted in science. And so, Amy, you are a gift to this world, and being able to work with the people that you do to make a difference, because you are making a difference. To my listeners out there, I just want to say, hey, today is the day. You don't have to completely change everything overnight, but today's the day to get started. Make those small changes, begin to kind of make those bigger as time goes, and reach out to Amy for help. She's a fantastic resource. She has lots of options that you're going to love to hear about. So, Amy, how can my listeners reach you if they want to find out more about the optimal life, if they want to reach in, reach out to hear more about coaching?
Guys made it this far, I'm going to give you a freebie. So if you can find me on two ways. One is on Instagram. It'd be at the Nutrition Coach Pharmacist. That's why I'm on Instagram, the Nutrition Coach Pharmacist. Or if you like the World Wide Web, I am at www.amykwilson.com. That's AMYKWILSON.com. And if you mention this podcast, RevRx, and tell me that you want the free 5-day fat loss blueprint, I will send that to you. It has lots of recipes. It gives you some of the things that we talked about today. And it will give you 2 of my favorite recipes. One is a chili recipe that tastes just like a Wendy's. According to my mom, this is a recipe that Dave Thomas used for his. It's actually out of the 1973 Better Homes and Gardens cookbook.
Wow.
Minimal ingredients, tastes so good. And even though it is hotter than Hades here today, it is going to get colder. I can't wait. So you will get that recipe and another recipe with the 5-day fat loss blueprint. So just message me on Instagram or message me through my website, and I would be happy to send that to you.
Awesome. And I'll have those links in the show notes, but thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate what you're doing in this world, and what a great time we've had just having a conversation about health. Always a pleasure to have a fellow pharmacist here on board with me.
Thanks for having me, Chad.
All right. Thank you for listening to the RevRx podcast. We hope you enjoyed what you heard today, and if so, we'd love it if you would hit that subscribe button so that you'll never miss a new episode from us. Also, feel free to leave us reviews and comments, as we'd love to hear from you. Be blessed and be the very best you.